This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Soulfluent Leadership is identifying, accessing, and speaking the leadership language of your soul. Doing so allows you to be the fullest and most natural expression of yourself in your work, and to lead organizations, businesses, groups, and yourself from an energy of high integrity and truth that magnetizes people and opportunities to you. At its core, Soulfluent Leadership is soul-led contribution that supports the greater good. There is a collective call to create a new normal, not where the leader wins but everyone else loses. Old structures of traditional leadership that were hierarchical, exclusive, and ego-driven are now being asked to be replaced by new paradigms that are sustainable, holistic, inclusive, compassionate, and where everyone, including the planet, wins. Change is afoot, and we know that we are the catalysts for change. But it requires a new level of leadership within ourselves first, then a new level of leadership externally. Our unique soul path for leadership and impact awaits us, and the time is now to define what leadership ultimately means to each of us. Valeria Teles interviews Priscilla Stephan, an intuitive business strategist, creator of the Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes, and speaker. Through a powerful combination of practical business strategy, together with soul guidance in the Akashic Records, Priscilla excels at helping people identify their zones of genius, step into powerful leadership, and live their purpose profitably. Priscilla's holistic and pragmatic approach to business and leadership allows her clients to live their dream lifestyle while confidently sharing their soul's work to make a big impact and increase their profit and growth. Meet Priscilla at priscillastephan.com. Here's the interview with Priscilla Stephan.
In your own words, who is Priscilla Stephan?
She is a bundle of joy and love and kindness. I would say that I just always look at the best in people and do my best to do good and to avoid doing harm. I always tell people if I can't do good, at least I will do my best not to do harm.
That sounds like a very beautiful and honorable philosophy to go by. And that most of the time, for some people, it contradicts the idea of being authentic and genuine and being true to ourselves. So I guess I had a different question here for you, but based on what you just said, what do you do in the face of injustice or when you need to be true to yourself? Would you still compromise that in order to be nice and kind to others?
I think that's been one of the greatest lessons for myself. And I think it's one of our greatest edges as human beings is the place of where are you true to yourself and where is that line, that dance of self-betrayal and self-love. And I think that it is the key is awareness. Consistent awareness of self and also compassion towards self and others, because sometimes we can't help ourselves from being unjust. Sometimes we can't help ourselves from allowing injustice to happen. And there's just so much. I think Bon Jovi just came out with a song that talks about, if you can't do what you want, do what you can. And so I think there's an element of what can I do here to make a difference or an impact, or at least not do harm. And so I think that it's very much a moving target, and it's a case-by-case scenario.
What do you think the purpose of the human experience is?
I think it's to love one another. I do tend to lean towards the thought that we're here to grow as spiritual beings, and to sometimes that, or often that comes in the form of lessons and life lessons, this earthly school, and to grow as spiritual beings and to evolve. So I think that would be my answer.
And when I hear that, a lot of times I ask the question about destination. If there is, what are we evolving to? Do you have any idea where we are trying to go with all these lessons we learn?
I think there are different terms that can speak to it, whether it be love, self-love, enlightenment, self-awareness, compassion. I'd like to think that perhaps that we are evolving into seeing that we're all connected, that we're all spiritual beings, infinite, eternal beings, and that we are so much more than our human experience.
What I often write about and reflect is if it is possible to have self-compassion or love for others before having for ourselves, so recognizing that within ourselves.
That's a tricky one. I think we can, but it may come at a price, because it may come from a distorted place, meaning sometimes we may put others ahead of ourselves because we've been told that's what we should do. We want to please people. We're afraid of not putting other people's needs. Sometimes it can be a dynamic of codependence or fear, or just lack of self-empowerment. And so I guess my question in that would be, what is the motivation behind what is the intent behind the behavior? Because I think it can get tricky. And I think, I guess it's possible, but at least in my life experience, when I put others ahead of myself, oftentimes, it was at my expense, right? My boundaries, my energy, my values, even my well-being, actually physical or emotional. And so it can be as simple as saying yes when you really want to say no.
Right.
And so I would say it depends. It can be tricky. I guess it can be done, but I guess I would just ask, what is your intent behind it?
2020 has been very interesting. All the events that have happened, what's still happening actually. For you, what has changed and what insights have you gained?
It's a great question. I think it's still, I agree with you, it's an ongoing evolution in terms of this. I think that COVID and 2020 happened to coincide with kind of really feeling really truly midlife. I'm 47. My husband just turned 60. We were actually in the middle of purchasing a house.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And I think that there is, for me, as many people might be going through this too, a reprioritization or a deepening into why am I choosing what I'm choosing is what I have been choosing with money, with career, with relationships, with quality of life, with how I'm maybe not saying yes to more life, happiness, questioning old beliefs, exploring, conditioned ways of thinking of what's the best thing to do or the ideal way to do society's things, even though, I'm self-aware enough to check my beliefs, at the door. Sometimes those ingrained cultural beliefs of, it's nice to buy a house, but then is it really?
Yes,
what is the cost of that?
Right.
And it triggers so many thoughts about money and why am I choosing what I'm choosing? And so it's been actually a very deep inquiry into that's actually ongoing, into the work I do. Does the work I do stay within only the realm of coaching? Do I get to do this as part of as an independent contractor in a different company as well? Like, really, the question that's up for me is, how does my contribution want to be expressed right now? In what containers? In what forms? And how do I get to support myself financially, even more than I thought I was happy with? And it's not about a financial number, but it's more about planning and peace of mind, and some of the I call it adulting, the uncomfortable number crunching of, my husband would like to retire in 5 years instead of in 10. And so what does that really look like? And what are some, hard decisions or just eye-opening things to look at? And so I think just questioning things from getting really real perspective is important. And I think it comes down to, what does a genuinely happy, peaceful, which is what you talk about, quality of life look like and feel like? What does that truly require? And what does it really mean to live life fully and truly right now? My husband and I were very, very, very quarantined. So I still feel like I'm trapped in time. Like I'm not back in society. It feels odd somehow still. And so I think it's just a day-to-day inquiry, and really looking at how can I appreciate today even more so. And so I think that's kind of where I am at the moment with it all.
I love the way you say being open to how the energies in you want to express themselves. Career-wise, just what is the flow? What is life asking you to do? And just flowing with it. I'm not trying to push away or reject what's happening.
Or control it or contain it in a way that I think, it's uncomfortable because I don't know an answer. Let me just come up with something so it'll make me feel better because I've done that. And I think the inquiry here, and it can go for all of us, no matter what we're going through, is are you able and willing to hold the tension of discomfort in your body long enough to move through the phase of inquiry until you get more clarity as to what's next?
So talk to me for a moment about, since we're speaking already about career and navigating life, what is conscious leadership and how do you define true power?
To me, conscious leadership is making choices from a self-aware place that factor in the impact not only on yourself, but on others and the planet. To me, true power is knowing that you have the ability to not betray yourself. To me, power is the ability to stay true to yourself and to know that even though it can feel like we are a victim of other people and circumstances, that we always have the power of what I would call the ability to navigate the circumstance without giving our power away. And there's just a reminder of that on a consistent basis. It's what Tony Robbins often says, life is happening for you, not to you. I hate every time he says that. But if we really took that space what if we weren't victims? If we were, true victors and fighters? How do we navigate things differently than, this is awful. Yes, we can have a breakdown. We can complain. We can get upset. We can get angry and frustrated and all those things. But if you're not a victim, what energy then can you operate from that really is connected to your personal power, your solar plexus, that place of empowerment that is always there?
I love that idea, this concept that we have a choice. Somehow have been kind of inquiring more about if we really, really do have that choice. It seems like we have the ability to become aware of something, and then from that space, then we are able to see the options, the possibilities from that place of awareness. But I don't think that is really a choice. It seems that that's just realizing something like you call true power within ourselves. Yeah, realizing that power that we can call power, but in the end, it's not. It might be the only power. The only power that really exists is realizing that life, it's a miracle. I mean, from my perspective, it's beautiful and it's unconditional love. And then whatever is happening here, I mean, why not? We have the chance to be in the body, and that's amazing already. Let me ask you another question related to that. It might be connected. The idea of success. What is your idea of success, Priscilla? And what are some of the misconceptions we have about it?
I think, in a way, it's evolved and yet it's never changed when it comes to success. I think success is very individual to each person, and it is very much, to me, true success is holistic, meaning that it's a mind, body, spirit connection. Yeah. And it's also one that is very individual because it's really, I guess when I think of success, I think of, are you living the values that matter most to you at this point in time? At my age, I've gone through a few cycles of life, and I know there will be more. And so I tell clients often that, you know, there's your cycle of business and your season of life. And so success will look very different based on where you are in your life and life events. So, you know, does your life reflect, and does your business reflect, does your leadership reflect what matters most to you? And that's where the place of radical honesty and personal responsibility and accountability comes in. And so for me, it's also holistic, meaning, you know, I certainly did this where I threw my health and my sanity under the bus to be successful and to grow a successful coaching business and consulting business. And it led to thyroid issues, panic and anxiety attacks. I burned out twice. I had some serious kind of scary health issues. And so to me, holistic success is one where your well-being, your inner peace, and the sense that you are living a life that really, you know, you truly feel like you're living it. You're not compromising or just kind of putting everything else on hold, you know, for the pursuit of money or the pursuit of accolades. And for me, a big part of that was really realizing that my identity and my self-worth were not interlinked. They are mutually exclusive. Who I am as a soul, as a being, has nothing to do, and the value that I have as a person, as a human being and a soul, has nothing to do with what I do and how I make what I make, and my status in the world or the car that I drive. And that was a big deal for me to handle, because I had not realized how intertwined my sense of self-worth was with my sense of identity of success in the world. Because if I'm not successful, then what am I? I'm nothing. And so there was a lot of inner work that went with all of that.
What is your spiritual perspective, Priscilla? What is the soul from your view? And talk to me also about the Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, in my very tiny, you know, perspective about what the soul is, I like to think of the soul as that eternal, magnificent, infinite part of us that is our truest loving essence that transcends time and space and dimensions, and that reincarnates multiple times to grow and to evolve. So that's soul for me. I never thought, when I kind of haphazardly became a health coach 10 years ago, that I would ever be talking about soul. And yet it makes total sense that I would be talking about something deep and rich. And so I use a tool called the Akashic Records to help women entrepreneurs grow sustainable, world-changing businesses by leading from their soul, from the truth of who they are, and by developing and trusting a spiritual core of their own. And so what that means is that over the course of this work, where I use intuitive guidance from their soul guides and practical business strategy, is that I uncovered an ability to channel dense bodies of work. And the Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes is my body of work developed 4 years ago. And it really helps people, and I work with women entrepreneurs, really to understand their soul's language of leadership and how to lead from the truest essence of who they are, to feel free to express themselves really naturally and fully, and to embody a sense of purpose and integrity and joy that gets to really radiate out into the world. And the body of work, in it, leadership is defined as contribution. For that reason, everyone is a leader, because everyone contributes, from a janitor to a school teacher to a person at McDonald's to a CEO to you and I. The question becomes, what is your definition of leadership? What kind of leader do you want to be? And then the archetypes give you a framework to understand your natural gifts and talents and personality, and then to learn how to integrate your archetype strengths and energies into your business. And that's what the Soulfluent Leadership Business Guide that's coming out in September will do. It's a book that is a reference guide to show you, based on which archetype you are, there are 5, how to do your branding, your social media, your team building, business model, money systems and structures, messaging. How does that look like from the lens of your archetype? And if someone's curious, what are the 5 archetypes? There's the mystic, which is me. We're here to create, elevate consciousness and promote well-being. There's the visionary, that's here to disrupt the status quo. There's the strategist, which uses data and process-driven strategies to create a better world. There's the explorer, that's all about travel and adventure and experiential living. And then there's the divine feminine, that is all about growing and rising together through community-focused activities and community building. So it's quite something.
Yeah, I love... Not them all, I would say, because when I looked at them, I love the idea, though. That makes so much sense to me. I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, I love this, because I saw the mystic first. I love that. And then I love the mystic. And then, I love the visionary too. And then the strategist, not so much. The explorer, not so much. The divine feminine, I love that too. So those 3, yes. I took the quiz and I was like, what is it? What is me here? So it seems like I am the divine feminine. That it's what came up.
Oh, how fascinating.
I know. So would that make sense to you, Priscilla?
It can. It could be. I mean, your message and the tone of your work to me feels very much like the mystic, primarily because you're all about promoting well-being and elevating consciousness and self-awareness. But the quiz identifies the energies that you have been operating from up until this point. And while everyone has elements of all 5 archetypes within them, the archetypes can shift over time, almost like you're shifting gears in a car, depending, again, on your phase of business and season of life. Sometimes you need to be in 5th gear if you're on the highway instead of, 2nd gear if you're in the city, right? And so sometimes your business will require different energies and nuances in terms of how you run it, how you show up, and how it's structured. But it all depends on how you resonate with it. I can see, the podcast is very much a community-driven effort, I would say. But when I first think about you and the whole theme and your message, to me, it screams mystic, just because of it's all about well-being and elevating consciousness and promoting harmony within ourselves and the world.
So that makes sense to me too. And I was about to ask, is that possible to be 3-in-1 to operate from the 3 archetypes at once. Is that possible?
You can. There is a primary, there is a secondary, and sometimes there's a third one as well. Usually the primary is the driver of the main business decisions and message, but then the secondary and the third are kind of supporting actors. Think of a movie. You need them too. They make the whole, but they're not the primary driver, the primary energy that influences your core decisions, your messaging, and your business model.
And if anyone wants to take the quiz, just go to your website. I think there's no specific extension, right, Priscilla?
You can go to priscillastefan.com. You can access it there. If you want to go straight to the page, it's priscillastefan.com/quiz. The quiz is free. It takes 3 minutes. And if you want to learn more about your archetype once you get your result, you can opt in via email, and you should get a short PDF and then a little bit more about what Soulfluent Leadership's promise is, which I want to share here, is to create a world where everyone thrives, where everyone wins, not just a select few.
Thank you so much for what you do, the way you do it. It's fun too. That's the impression I had on your website. It's like fun, playful. And that makes a big difference.
Good. Because
right?
can be quite serious, and this can be quite deep. So I do have a playful side. So I appreciate that came through.
It did. Yeah, very much does. Speaking to you, your work, just reading about it and learning, that's what comes to me. Speaking of being playful and lighter, talk to me for a moment about the strategies, or what can we do to avoid or to deal with burnout?
Well, I think that it's a great question. First of all, if you are burning out, or you have compassion versus judging yourself, right? Because it's a great lesson in realignment of your values and of how you do things. But burnout tends to be a slow or rapid acceleration of an erosion of your values and your alignment, I believe. I never said it quite that way. You start to slowly loosen your boundaries, say more yes than no and sometimes it just feels like you have no choice, right? You have a job and you have to keep it, or you feel. And so I think that's where, yes, maybe you're in a difficult situation and you feel like you have no choice, but as you are going through the difficult situation, can you also consider asking yourself, what scenario, what possibility is there? I think ultimately it's a question of, how can I not throw myself under the bus? And really, what opportunities exist in the moment for me to put myself first? And I think ultimately, what is required is a re-examination of our beliefs of what we can and cannot do, what's possible, what's not possible, what is a choice, what is not a choice, and what does well-being look like, and how does well-being and success, and making money, how can they actually coexist in a harmonious and healthy way versus one making the other suffer? And that's the Soulfluent way. It's where you win, your health wins, your contribution is most potent, you make good money, and you also support the greater good. And so that is really the promise, the invitation, the possibility that Soulfluent work is. How can you become fluent in your soul's leadership language, and in a way that really, what does well-being look like for you ultimately? And I think that is a big question sometimes, but it is ultimately an immense opportunity to re-examine what no longer works and what changes are available to make.
Thank you for offering that possibility too, to see the possibilities. So it's an opening. Thank you, Priscilla. Yeah, we need that I'm thing, right? As a destination, but a practice, right? So we're almost at the end, and I do have a few more questions for you, the ending questions. Would you like to add anything that we didn't?
No, let's go.
So my ending questions, freedom. How do you define freedom?
Peace.
What is another word for intuition?
Oh, boy. Well, I have 2 words: trusting yourself.
I love that. Yes. And what was the hardest lesson to learn about yourself in life as of today?
I'm worth fighting for. I'm worth saying yes to. And I'm worth putting myself first.
I love 1,000,000,000 times that. That you are already unconditionally loved. That's, yeah, if we can remember that, right, Priscilla, in moments of
Yes.
difficulties and challenges, that we are already
Yes.
unconditionally loved. And 2 more questions. If you knew you would die soon, meaning leaving, losing the body, would you make any change or do anything in a different way?
I think I would, I might be even more present to the beauty of everyday life than I am now.
Tell me about it. Yes.
So I think that I would prioritize my joy. I would stop doing so, going through my to-do list. I probably would do the things that, maybe take more breaks or go to the beach more, or do things that would spark joy. And I do prioritize time with my family for sure, even though they are spread out, and maybe even spend more time with them than I already do. But I think it speaks to quality of life choices on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis more than anything else,
And the last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
Life is a gift. Love is always the answer. And choose kindness over fear. And if you can't help, don't harm.
Thank you so much again for your
You're
message,
welcome.
your wisdom, the work you do, and everything else in between that can be felt, the playfulness that I feel.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Priscilla. And before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your work, services, products, and future projects?
Yeah, so my website, PriscillaSteffen.com, and on Instagram at PriscillaSteffen.
Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Priscilla Steffen and her work, please visit PriscillaSteffen.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.